I'm Howard Jackson from Open Door Multimedia, and this afternoon I'm talking to Dan Sumner, who's an apprentice and quite an old apprentice, and he'll tell us what he's doing. So go on, Dan, what's happening?
Yeah, I'm apprentice to George Reed, who we've been working with today, who I met a couple of years ago. I've been gradually moving into woodland management over the past 5 or 10 years. I've been working outside doing conservation-based work for 20-25 years now, and I started managing a small piece of woodland for the National Trust, and I was burning charcoal and firewooding, getting a bit of timber out, and I was working a piece of ancient semi-natural woodland, and basically didn't want machinery in there making a mess. And I made a few enquiries, and someone gave me George's name. We did a couple of days, and on George's suggestion, he said, why don't you get in touch with the British horse loggers and do an apprenticeship, which made me smile at the age of 44. But he said, no, go for it. George he's one of the oldest, if not the oldest horse logger, certainly still working professionally, full time. So we plugged away, we applied. It's taken us a while to get a bit of funding, and thankfully the RDPE have helped us very kindly.
RDPE, tell us what that
RDPE is the Rural Development Plan for England, which is money that has been set aside for people setting up small businesses in rural locations that isn't aside from agriculture. And
what's a normal working day for you then, if that's not a silly question?
With George?
Yeah.
We'll roll up maybe between 8 and 8:30. Take the horses out of the box, give them a bit to eat, tack them up, have a cup of tea. George will have a cigarette or two, and then we'll do an hour. Currently we've got a big job that we've started near Hawkshead that's a big thinning project in some forestry plantation that used to belong to the Forestry Commission, and a local hotel has invested in a wood chip boiler.
Right.
That they are managing 60 acres of woodland to provide fuel and obviously eventually sell the timber for income, which is great. George says it's like what George calls a model horse logging job, which should last between 3 and 5 years. So hopefully, as I finish my apprenticeship, I should slide into the work.
Right. And how long is your apprenticeship?
The apprenticeship scheme's supposed to be 3 years,
right?
But because of my previous experience in woodland management forestry, they've compressed it into 2 years.
Right. And what examining board or assessment board is it?
It's Apprentice.
Right.
Open College network. I couldn't tell you what level it is off the top of my head, but it's obviously it's a practically based scheme. For the vast majority of it, we'll just be working with George, learning how to handle the horses, learning how to manage woodlands and forestry, and then there are certain mandatory courses that I have to pass. Chainsaw, which I already have. Woodland management courses, ecology, veterinary care for horses, etc. First aid. I think it's quite a good. It's a rounded package, and the aim is that at the end of the 2 or 3 years, you'll be able to set yourself up as a small woodland management company using horses.
Right. And did you have any experience of working with horses prior to this? Very
little.
Right.
It's something I've always wanted to do. My grandfather used to work railway horses.
Right.
So my early remembers of him sitting in front of the horse racing, and telling me tales of pulling the cotton wagons, the railheads to the factories.
Well, my dad worked on the railway, and he never mentioned any horses.
Right. Yeah. Well, he died when I was very, very young. And I think Grandad quite rapidly moved onto the wagons when he was a young man, but his first work was with the horses.
Okay.
And I've had an interest ever since, but I never. It was just a bit of a dream, really.
Mhm.
I've always been interested in working horses, but thought, even when I met George, I thought, well, he's this old pro and he might maybe let me put the chains on and off or something like that. But his first words were, get your hand on the horse, Dan. You'll never learn anything looking it over a gate.
Right.
And off I set down the hill and fell over and got banged into a tree and just stuck at it, really.
Right. So, and what I've seen today is that you're very involved in explaining and teaching to people.
Mm-hmm.
So is that a side that you'd like to develop?
It is, yeah. Most of my work over the years has been dry stone walling, and I took a instructor training course with the Dry Stone Walling Association a few years ago.
Yeah.
And a colleague used to run dry stone walling courses, so I'm quite familiar with teaching people, showing it, and I quite enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
And it's actually a requirement of my funding from both the RDPE and the National Park that I undertake some training.
Right.
So when I heard that George had been approached to do these courses, I thought, fantastic.
Right. So you're not only learning through your apprenticeship, you're actually delivering training to other people.
Yeah. Blind leading the blind, isn't it?
Brilliant. Well, great talking to you. It's been a great day today. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you go from strength to strength.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.